No DQ Galaxy, we are live with a recap of AEW Dynamite for Wednesday, April 24th, 2024. We are coming off the AEW Dynasty pay-per-view. We have Double or Nothing coming up in just about a month's time. Let's get to this recap, an eventful show. Let's talk about what happened. We kicked off Dynamite with footage of the Elite arriving, the Young Bucks, EVPs, along with the International Champion, which champion is he? International, Continental, I think it's Continental. The Continental Champion, Okada, and Jack Perry. Security was trying to have Jack Perry escorted away, but the Bucks said that he's with them, and they backed off. We then had an interesting segment where Orange Cassidy was coming out, presumably for a match, but he was jumped by Trent Beretta, and Trent called out Chuck Taylor. Taylor came out there, and Trent said that he was sorry that he did not take out Orange Cassidy sooner. He said that he cares about Chuck. He asked Chuck to do the right thing and give the people what they want. Now, Chuck teased doing the best friends hug, but then got on the mic and said he always thought Trent was a piece of shit. And then he attacked him. They fought, and then Chuck said he wants to fight Trent in a parking lot, which is a throwback to when the Best Friends had that parking lot fight several years ago as a tag team. Now they'll be going one-on-one in a parking lot fight. I believe it's going to be this Saturday on Rampage, which again will be part of a 3-hour block with Collision. They set that up, and then we had Prince Nana introducing the new AEW World Champion, Swerve Strickland. Swerve Strickland versus Kyle Fletcher in a number one contenders match. Basically, if Kyle Fletcher won, he would get a title shot, even though Fletcher hasn't really been winning much at all lately. They still had this match. Fletcher got in way more offense than I think he should have against the world champion, but they had to do the competitive match. Swerve did dominate pretty early on, and then Prince Nana provided a little bit of a distraction. Swerve built up some momentum, but then Fletcher hit the Michinoku driver, and then Swerve regained the upper hand, hit him with a neck breaker on the apron, and then a Swerve stop on the apron, but then Swerve started selling his ankle, and Kyle Fletcher took advantage of this, put on the ankle lock. Swerve managed to get to the rope. It went back and forth a bit more. Then Swerve came off the top with the Swerve stop, and Fletcher kicked out of the Swerve stop. And then finally, Swerve got the win with the house call kick. A couple of things on this. First of all, I don't think I would have done a match with Swerve on this show. I think it should have opened with Swerve coming out there and cutting a promo, talking about how important the title win was, rallying up the fans, talking about being a fighting champion. I feel like that would have been more productive than this. This just felt like filler. And then the second issue I have, and Matthew just mentioned it here, the fact that Fletcher kicked out of the Swerve stomp. Why? Why does Kyle Fletcher kick out of the Swerve stomp? What's the point of that? Like, save that for the pay-per-views when Swerve's against the top contenders, not a guy that has been on a losing streak. It just felt like it was a waste of Swerve's first appearance as world champion. Just my opinion on it. And we were also having audio issues throughout the first hour of this show. You could hear echoing in the backstage segments, and also the commentary felt like you couldn't hear it too well at times. Apparently, it was a TBS issue and not AEW, so TBS better get it together here. We had Thunder Rosa interviewed backstage by Renee Paquette. Thunder Rosa seemed to be in good spirits coming off of her loss to Toni Storm at the pay-per-view, but then Deonna Purrazzo interrupted and things got heated between them. They're not on the same page. They got into a shoving match, and security had to break them up. We had a video package showing the highlights of Bryan Danielson versus Will Osprey. As I mentioned, one of the best matches in wrestling history, as far as I'm concerned. I know it's not everybody's cup of tea, but I thought it was excellent. And Will Osprey is easily their hottest star, and more on that here in just a few moments. Now, the Real Wyatt sent in a $2 super chat. Thank you for that. And I already am reading it here, so I'll mention it again later. AEW just became WCW officially tonight. Wow, crazy. You're saying just now it's becoming WCW? I'll talk more about that later. I'll mention the super chat again later when I talk about the close of the show. We had a women's match early, before 9 o'clock. We had Mina Shirakawa going up against Mariah May. Or no, not Mariah May. She had Mariah May in her corner, excuse me. Mina versus Anna Jay. And this was a competitive match. Mina came off the top with a knee strike. Anna kicked out of that. Mina put on a figure four. Anna got to the ropes. Then Mina came off the top with a missile drop kick, hit an enziguri. Anna kicked out once again. Anna was holding her own here, and then she countered into the Queen Slayer, but then she looked over at Mariah May, got momentarily distracted. So I guess stupid heel. Is Anna Jay a heel? I'm not even sure, but she got distracted by Mariah May, and Mina took advantage. Mina got the 1, 2, 3, and then Anna Jay attacked both of them after the match. So I guess she is technically a heel, so stupid heel, whatever. Toni Storm ran down to make the save for Mariah May. It's weird because Toni Storm's been a heel, but now I guess Mariah May is a babyface. I'm not even sure what's going on here. Who's a heel? Who's a face? Then Serena Deeb came out there and sat down next to the title that Toni Storm dropped on the stage when he was running to the ring. And she just, I think, because the audio was not too good here, I think she said that she's going to win the AEW title. If I had to take a wild guess, I think that's what she said, but it was tough to hear her. Next up, we had the victory celebration for Willow Nightingale, the new TBS champion. Stokely Hathaway and Chris Statlander introduced Willow, and they were doing a little bit of comedy here. Again, really couldn't hear too much of it. They had balloons out there, and this was really weird. There was some guy on commentary. I don't know who he was. I don't know if they said who he was. If they did, maybe I just couldn't hear it. But there was some guy who was sitting at the commentary desk rapping to Willow's entrance. So I'm not really sure what this was. And if you're going to have a guy rap her entrance, why not have him use the house mic? Why do it on commentary? Very weird, in my opinion. And then Willow basically declared herself as the new face of TBS. I guess it was one of Ring of Honor's commentators. Goes to show how much I watch Ring of Honor. There you go. Mercedes Moné quickly interrupted this segment, and she questioned if Willow attacked her, if she was the bitch that attacked her a couple weeks ago and made her moan. And then Chris Statlander questioned if maybe Mercedes set up her own attack since Willow was attacked last week. And then Willow suggested that this whole thing is personal because Willow injured Mercedes and said she wants Mercedes 100% at Double or Nothing. And then Mercedes started to walk away after saying Willow cannot beat her. Chris grabbed at Mercedes. Mercedes turned around and slapped Willow, thinking that it was Willow that grabbed her when it was actually Chris Statlander. And Mercedes took her sweet time with this slap to the point where I think Willow had plenty of time to block it or move out of the way, but she did not. And things broke down here, and it's official. I mean, it already was official, but it's even more official now. Chris Statlander causing some more problems, and we got more heat leading up to the TBS title match coming up at Double or Nothing. Maybe Chris Statlander was the person that attacked Mercedes, or maybe Chris is going to turn against Willow and align with Mercedes. Who knows? Guess we'll have to wait and see what happens. We had a backstage segment. So the Elite had gone into Tony Khan's locker room, and they came out of the locker room, and Nicholas Jackson revealed that Jack Perry will meet in the ring with AEW president Tony Khan, which is significant because we have seen Tony Khan on TV, but he really hasn't been an actual character in AEW. And he even said for years that he was not going to be a TV character. He has been like the real life president. He has made occasional appearances, and we were going to have an actual segment on the show with Tony Khan in the ring. So more on that in just a few moments. We had what I thought was the best match on the show. We had a casino gauntlet match, and basically the rules of this, it was like a Royal Rumble where like every minute or so a new person enters. The key for this is the first person to score a fall instantly wins the match. So people just keep coming out there, I guess, until like 21 people enter or something. But if somebody scores a pin or submission, match is over. That person goes on to Double or Nothing to challenge Roderick Strong for the international title. Okada has the continental title, and the international title is Roderick Strong. I'm struggling to keep up with all the titles here. So Casino Gauntlet match, I actually like the idea. It was entertaining, very fast-paced match. It started off with Jay White and Dante Martin. Then you had Penta, Kyle O'Reilly, and then we had Lance Archer coming out there, and Archer, he was cleaning house, and we had Will Osprey enter the match, and he got a massive pop. And as I mentioned earlier, Will Osprey's the hottest act in the company. He got, from what I could tell, by far the biggest reaction of anybody on this show. He's red hot right now. He's AEW's golden ticket at this time. So hopefully they don't screw things up with him, because we've seen guys that have been red hot that ended up cooling off. And hopefully they don't screw up Will Osprey, because they got something with him. He definitely has potential to be the flagship of the company. He came out there, he was cleaning house, and then Archer took Osprey and tossed him over the top rope onto everybody on the outside. Then we had Commander come out there, and Commander ended up taking Archer out of the match, giving him a Hurricane Rana off the apron through 2 tables that had been set up during the break. Then Jay Lethal was out there, and then things started to break down. Everybody was hitting big moves. Osprey went for the Tiger Driver 91, but he hesitated because he said he was no longer going to use that move since Bryan Danielson got hurt from it at the pay-per-view. So he hesitated with it, and he almost lost the match, but then Commander came in, went after Kyle O'Reilly with a big splash, and then Osprey immediately hit Commander with the Hidden Blade and got the 1-2-3 victory. So Osprey is going on to face Roderick Strong for the international title. Now, some people are thinking, okay, this means Osprey's not going for the world title at All In, which I don't necessarily think is the case. I feel like this could be a unification match. We got too many titles. Why do we have a Continental title, an international title, a TNT title? We got the IWGP title. We got the FTW title. Like, come on, man. We got way too many titles. And I honestly think they should just merge it. I feel bad for Orange Cassidy because he worked so hard to build up the international title. But, I mean, this is absurd. So maybe Osprey doesn't defend it and merge it and just wins the world title as the international champion and then forfeits the international title, or maybe he defends both. I don't know, but I still think we're going to get Osprey versus Swerve at All In. I'm still going with that prediction. Match was very fun. I enjoyed it, and I think it was one of the highlights of the show. All right, so now talking about something that wasn't a highlight of the show, and that's Chris Jericho, who is, to his credit, trying to reinvent himself again. But I ain't feeling it. He's got new music, which is actually a Fozzy song. It's called Spotlight. I think it's a new song. And it's funny because people thought like it was a parody. So Jericho has a new entrance. He's now calling himself the Learning Tree, Chris Jericho. And the beginning of his entrance, you hear him on the PA, I'm the Learning Tree or something like that, followed by the start of the music. So it kind of reminded people of a Def Rebel song where, you know, somebody, a wrestler, says their name or their catchphrase at the beginning and then their generic music plays. And people thought it was a parody. This is people on Twitter and social media thinking that it was a parody of Def Rebel, but that was actually a Fozzy song that Chris Jericho came out to. So Judas was not going to last forever. Like, you had to change it up at some point. But right now, I'm not feeling this Jericho gimmick. And it gets worse here because he comes out there and he said he gave credit to Hook, but said Hook needs to get rid of the dead weight like his father Taz and Shibata. He said Hook needed to stay down and listen to Jericho, and Jericho was forced to hit him with the baseball bat. Hook did not listen to Jericho. And then Big Bill came out there. Big Bill came into the ring and said he wants to learn from the Tree of Jericho, or he wants guidance of the Learning Tree. And he said nobody is a better fit than him. And Jericho said that he's been a big fan of Big Bill. He he was one of the guys instrumental in getting Big Bill into AEW. And he said he'll keep his eye out on Big Bill. The problem I have with this, it just feels like a rehash of the Jericho Appreciation Society, which was a rehash of the Inner Circle. Like, how many Jericho factions are we going to be doing here where guys come in and they're under the wing of Chris Jericho? Like, it's just boring at this point. Like, I give Jericho credit for using different music and trying to change things up, but this whole gimmick of taking guys under his wing, it's just played out. Like, I do not care about this storyline with Jericho and Big Bill whatsoever. And what's going on with Ricky Starks? Is this the end of the road for him? They're done pushing him, figuring he's WWE bound as soon as he gets a chance. Like, man, talk about a guy that cooled off. That's why I'm concerned about Osprey. As great as Osprey is in the ring, we've seen so many wrestlers that were red hot, Ricky Starks being one of them, and guys like Wardlow. Granted, Osprey better wrestler than those guys in the ring, but both of those guys had some serious momentum and it was squandered. And I worry about that with Osprey. Big Bill, I like Big Bill, but I still want Enzo back. Like, if you really want me to care about Big Bill, get Enzo back and let's have those guys as a team, or have Enzo be Cass's manager or Big Bill's manager, whatever you want to call him. But the whole thing with Jericho, not feeling it. I don't know what Jericho should do at this point, but I feel like there's nothing left for him in AEW. I think maybe it's time to wrap it up, maybe do a WWE Hall of Fame induction and go off into the sunset. Just do stuff with Fozzy, open a training school, or do stuff behind the scenes, become a producer. I just feel like I hate to say it, I think Jericho's washed at this point. I know that's the term now. I just don't know what's left for him in AEW. Anyways, I've said my piece on that. And then backstage, Don Callis was talking to Will Ospreay. Don Callis kind of mad that Ospreay did not use the Tiger Driver, and Kyle Fletcher was like, hey, he still won anyways, who cares? But yeah, I mean, tension's definitely building, and I feel it's inevitable that we'll get the split, as Ospreay's, a massive babyface at this point. Shout out to Caleb Jacobs, who sent in a $2 super chat. Thank you for that, Caleb. Says, I have a feeling Jericho is leaving AEW soon. It depends on what WWE offers him. Like, if Jericho can be on TV and be a guy who's everybody wants to be with and wants to learn from him, and Jericho's still in the spotlight, he might not leave AEW. It just depends on how long he can keep that spot on TV. If I'm Jericho, I'm going to milk it as long as I can. But yeah, I think the WWE Hall of Fame induction, and even he might have one more WWE run, come back, have a few more big matches before he retires. I think it's inevitable that we will see Jericho back in WWE. It's just a matter of when. But yeah, I think he should go back when his contract's up, whenever that is. We had Jon Moxley versus Powerhouse Hobbs for the IWGP Championship, the Divas title, as I like to call it. The thing about this match is, number one, Will Hobbs ain't winning the title when Jon Moxley just won it, and they're not doing an IWGP title change on Dynamite. So that right there kind of turns me off of this match, because I know the result here. Match was all right. Like, it was average. The problem with Will Hobbs is that he's basically Mike Knox. He's a guy that looks intimidating, and you would think on the surface that he's a threat, but he's basically a jobber to the stars. That's what he is. He's another guy that maybe at one point had a little bit of momentum, and it ended up going nowhere. And at this point, like, I don't know how you rehab Hobbs. Like, there was a time where I thought, okay, this is it. Maybe if you pull the trigger on this guy, he can be something in AEW. But the start and stop pushes, like, he's another guy that probably should try WWE when he gets the opportunity. But it was a decent match. They brawled in the crowd, and because it's the New Japan rule, they get the 20 count, which, I mean, it felt more like 45 seconds or a minute that they were brawling out there. And it's like, so Excalibur's like, okay, there's 20 seconds, but then they're out there clearly longer than 20 seconds. And on commentary, they're like, well, it's an IWGP title match. The referees, cutting them a little bit of slack here and giving them a chance to settle their score outside the ring, whatever the excuse is. Anyways, they get back in the ring, and Moxley makes his big comeback, fury of punches, hits a paradigm shift. Hobbs kicked out of it. This is a trend. The guy who's losing kicks out of the finisher just to make them look good in defeat, but at the same time, you're kind of weakening the finisher. Moxley then applied the rear naked choke. Hobbs struggled to get out of it, but could not. He passed out. Moxley wins, no surprise. Then Konosuke Takeshita appeared on the stage, and he's going to be next in line to try and beat Moxley for the IWGP title. And that's that. We had our final segment, which was Jack Perry coming to the ring. He was introduced by Tony Schiavone, and then the crowd was singing Cry Me a River. Then he said that he had some of his best moments in Jacksonville, but it's time to handle business with Tony Khan. He brought out Khan. Khan came into the ring, and Perry poured his heart out, said that when he signed with AEW 5 years ago, it was about changing the world, and the only thing he ever wanted to do was do what's best for AEW. He asked Tony Khan for a handshake and to be reinstated. Khan was, nice guy. He instantly went over, shook Jack Perry's hand, gave him a big hug, and raised his hand. So Tony Khan raised Jack Perry's hand, and bam, Jack Perry punched him in the stomach. The Elite immediately ran down to the ring, and the Young Bucks were very upset about this, or so it appeared. But then they went after Tony Khan and gave him the TK driver. Took him out with that double team move, and the entire Elite, including Jack Perry, stood over the lifeless body of Tony Khan, who basically sold it like he was killed. And they left the ring. You had officials coming out there, and we had what I think is the first TV appearance on Dynamite of Shad Khan, Tony's dad. They actually had Tony's dad, Shad, come into the ring to check on his son's condition to end the show. And that was Dynamite. They closed with a heavy angle, which I liked. I liked the fact that we got a big cliffhanger moment, and they did one of the heavier angles that they've ever done. Like, we've never seen Tony Khan get beat up until this show. Shout out to Building Nexus, and I forgot to mention this, so thank you for reminding me, says, and to think Kenny Omega returns next week. Yes, Kenny Omega returns, and also they're going to announce Swerve Strickland's opponent for Double or Nothing, which seems very random that they're just going to make an announcement as to who his opponent is. Now, where is this going? I'm very intrigued about the follow-up to this. Will this be writing off Tony Khan as any kind of an on-screen personality, including like media scrums and that sort of thing? Maybe just have Tony Khan be behind the scenes. Is Tony Khan actually going to come back and be a regular TV character? It's got to be one or the other, right? Either Khan is completely gone, you bring in a new figurehead face of the company to feud with the Young Bucks. Maybe Kenny Omega is going to be the new face in place of Tony Khan. Because, I mean, isn't Kenny Omega having surgery and going to be out for several more months? So maybe that's where this is going. Maybe Kenny Omega is going to be like the new figurehead president of AEW until he's cleared to wrestle again. So that might be where this is going. I'm definitely intrigued. For the first time in several weeks, I felt like Dynamite did a good job of making me want to see next week's show and witness the follow-up to it. Shout out to Brian, who sent in a $5 super chat. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. It says, Tony Khan's new song, No Chance in Hell, the debut of Mr. Khan. I don't think that's going to happen. Like, I don't think Tony Khan should be a TV character. I've said this before. I actually think he's better off just working behind the scenes and let there be a figurehead authority figure. And since the Bucks are heels, I kind of like the idea of the EVPs battling it out with the Bucks as the heels, the heel EVPs, and Kenny Omega as the babyface EVP. And, there's like a split between these two sides. And, they could eventually do blood and guts. And when Omega's cleared, he can face Okada. So I like that idea if that's where they're going. You put Tony Khan in a behind-the-scenes role and just stick to that and have Kenny Omega be the actual authority figure that appears on camera. If that's where they're going, I think that's a good idea. So we'll see what they do. I don't think Tony should be coming back and actually being a weekly TV character. So we'll see where they go on this one. I'm definitely intrigued. And I did like Dynamite. It had technical issues. The audio was a mess, but that wasn't AEW's fault. The Jericho stuff, not a fan. But I did like the end of the show. I liked the angle. I liked the Gauntlet match. The Casino Gauntlet match was very good. The Mercedes segment, I mean, it was a mixed bag, but I did think that there was some good stuff on the show. So I'm going to give it a B. Solid B for Dynamite. Good show overall. And they do have me intrigued for next week's show. Thank you guys for watching tonight. I hope you enjoyed the Dynamite recap, and I will be back Friday night for SmackDown as we talk about the night one results of the draft. What's going to happen? Now, apparently the champions are not going to be drafted, which I think is a good call. Who's going to Monday Night Raw? We're going to find out this Friday. At least some of the wrestlers, we're going to find out where they're going. And then on Raw, we'll figure out the rest of the results. But Friday night, I'll be back. Shout out to Muhammad. Hope you're doing well. And thank you to everyone again for watching. Buy a shirt and spread the word about NoDQ.com. Stay tuned to NoDQ for the latest news and rumors. And I will see you all next time.